Hey everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Roll for Crit podcast. On today's show, we're going to be introducing ourselves to you, let you get to know us a little better. Then we're going to talk some about our love for tabletop gaming and why we think everybody out there watching should get into it as well, if you're not already. All that, maybe more on today's show. My name is Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler.
And this is the Roll for Crit podcast.
So, since this is our first show, we thought you'd like to learn a little bit about us and where we came from and how we met. So, you can actually know who we are. I'm Will, again, this is Jonathan.
Thank you, I am Jonathan.
We met in high school.
That's true. From opposite coasts. You came to New Jersey from California.
We don't know why.
It's
a mystery, even I don't. Maybe we'll learn on our journey together.
Perhaps, but probably not. We're both based in New Jersey today, and we're here. This is our first episode starting our website, which is called, what was it called again?
Roll for Crit.
That's right, Roll for Crit. So, basically, we're going to just talk a little bit about what we do and who we are. We're Dopest PR. We're not Dopest PR. Sorry, I got confused. We're Roll for Crit. We're a board game selling website primarily, so we are a shop. We would love you to purchase games from us because we are a business. We should be honest about the fact we want to make money. However, in addition to that, what we'd like to do is kind of start a little community around board gaming.
We want to also show videos, so people can, when you look on our site, you can actually see what you're getting in the box. And maybe what the kind of game it's like.
Correct.
Because how many times have we looked at a game and been like, that looks cool, but what is it?
Exactly. It can be hard to figure out what you want. So between these podcasts and other videos that we're going to do on this site and news stories that we'll be posting on a daily basis, we want to help you make it easier for people to get together and learn about games and talk about games and listen to us talk about games and all kinds of stuff related to games. Which should be a lot of fun, I think. I love games.
Before we continue any further, let's introduce our cameraman.
Of course, that's very important. So, where there aren't just two of us, we have one more guy, and that's Ivan Hahn behind the camera right now.
Hi, how's it going? I'm the voice behind the camera.
That's his real voice. Ivan and I go even further back than high school, I'm afraid, and we've previously worked together on other podcasts that nobody watched, and hopefully this one will be better. And then Will, they know each other too, I think. Did you guys meet?
No, I don't. I have no idea.
No, we've never met. Never in our entire lives.
Nice to meet you.
Will.
Nice.
But anyway, normally on this show, what we would do every week is cover the top stories in the news from tabletop gaming, give our thoughts on them, and then we would have one sort of
major discussion
on a particular topic for some kind of a mechanic of board games or a particular genre of board games, or it could be
a pattern we see when we're playing board games and
planning parties, and it could be anything. Since this is our first episode, we're not going to get too much into that. We're going to have a more general focus. Right. So you sent me this article a few days ago. What was in that article? What was it about?
It was a New York Times article by Nick Wingfield. It was discussing why board games have increased in popularity over the years, which is surprising because most people would have bet, video games, technology, graphics are so much better, which we won't lie, we love those too.
We definitely play a lot of video games, although in recent years, board games have taken more and more time away from video games, I think.
They have, and I think one of the major reasons, which the article does mention, is that because of video games, the way video games have played now is a lot of it's online. Board games, however, are when you're in the same room, and it gives that community, you're actually seeing each other again, which I know for some people, seeing people stinks, but I mean, it's a lot of fun just to get with a group of your friends, and just roll the dice and make jokes and stuff.
It's a lot harder when you're seeing someone face to face to get on the mic and shout racial slurs at them like you can when you're playing Call of Duty. But yeah, no, I love that about the article, that it talks about that kind of that social gap being filled that video games, although video games are very social, there's something so different about the face-to-face interaction.
No question.
That you don't get from that.
Well, I think another thing that can happen is, I know for some people, Ivan and me included, is there's also a time for us to actually try cooking stuff for people.
I'm not part of this club, I guess.
Well, us in particular.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
I'm sorry. I know you like to cook too, but we're the ones always like getting excited about a potluck. But
we don't let you cook. I'm sorry.
No, that's someone else.
I only set the house on fire one time. 2 times. Wait, let's get to learn how to cook? Where are you going with this?
No, like it's like you can do in video games. It's always just okay. I'm gonna just sit in my chair and play the game. But this is like I can maybe like do cooking or maybe like talk about like other things.
Right. It's almost an excuse to get together and figure out have other fun things surrounding the. Oh, you could kind of say the same thing about having a video game party, but so few people do that. But so why don't you?
Well, it's harder because let's say like a LAN party now. Carrying your entire computer over to someone's house compared to maybe 2 board games, it's a big difference.
True.
But another thing the article points out is interesting enough. I think this is how board games look more like movies. The technology has actually helped them instead of hurt them. Like many board games now can be printed at home. You can actually design them, 3D printers. So much so that because Kickstarter and tabletop games have gone now hand in hand. In fact, within the last year, tabletop games alone made $52.1 million in funding on Kickstarter.
So we should say, in case there's like 2 people who don't know what Kickstarter is.
Oh, of course.
It's the crowdfunding website where people can make any kind of project, movies, video games, books, arts and crafts, and people will fund it. It's sort of like an investment deal, only you don't get any money in return. You usually just get the product. But yeah, it's been huge for board games, as you said.
In particular, even if you're not huge into board games, I suggest checking out Kickstarter. There's a lot of cool stuff on there.
Absolutely. But, you will have yourself spent, I think, $6,000 in the last year.
Not even close. But no, I have spent a lot on Kickstarter. I don't regret it. I don't think I've regretted any of it I've spent on that.
And because of that, so the article kind of generally goes over how board games have risen to popularity recently, and it especially talks about how Settlers of Catan, which, if you're interested in that game, check out our playback episode, which should also be up by now. If not, it'll be up soon, where we actually go more in depth on Settlers of Catan. But the point is, that game came out in the 90s, and that's sort of, there were some more serious games before that, like obviously the big names like chess and stuff like that,
right.
And even like Cosmic Encounter, came out in like the 70s.
I think the thing is, like, Catan brought this new mechanic and also the idea that we can have whole new themes. Like before, if you asked anyone about a board game, it'd just be like, Monopoly, Stratego, Risk. It was the General Hasbro ones. But like now, like there's games for almost everything. I mean, there's farming, there's like futuristic farming, traders.
There's pirate farming, medieval farming.
Farming's the thing. But like there's so many different topics you can cover with board games now.
And for whatever that, and I think also just the ease of play of Catan and how well designed it was. It really started off this kind of, I want to say revolution, but that sounds so overdramatic. A
little bit.
In new board games, especially coming out of Europe. Catan is a German game, and Germany is huge for the board game community.
Extremely. They actually have the largest board game convention there.
Correct. And many games have come out of different areas of Europe, come over here, and has in turn inspired a lot of Western developers as well to get started on board games. So since then, it's really, I think it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Like I hear about it more and more. Online communities are popping up everywhere. Even like family members that I didn't think, know at least what Catan is and maybe some other games. Which is really, really cool. So I would throw it to you and ask, for somebody who might be watching this, somehow stumbled upon it, they were drunk and like typed some things on the YouTube, don't know what's happening anymore. Why would you recommend they get into board games, and what is it, what has it done for you?
Another thing about board games.
You just completely skipped the question that I wanted you to answer.
I thought you were asking someone else. No.
I want you to tell anyone watching out there why they should get into board games.
I thought you were asking them to comment back because you were
They can do that
typing.
Too. They're too drunk to comment back. You have to help them.
Actually, one of the big things is it's a lot easier to get into for new people.
Than now, compared to something else?
Compared to like a video game. Like if you give someone, I'm going to go extreme, Dark Souls, who've never played a video game before, they're going to have a bad time.
Right.
But I mean, a lot of other games, sure, there's complicated decks and there's a few hard ones, but it's a lot easier to tell them, okay, you're just going to draw a card, read it, and then play what you think looks best.
Well, I think one of the big barriers to entry. I don't want this to get into the video games versus board games thing.
Oh yeah.
But the thing you always see people who don't play video games struggling with is the control pads.
Oh yeah.
Where they don't remember where the buttons are. What's great about board games, somehow some of them can be very complicated for sure.
Arkham Horror alone.
But generally it's you roll the dice, you play a card. People understand that, and there's also something there's that tactile. But anyway, you're right. So it's very easy to pick up a simple board game and get into. And rewarding, I think, because it's an excuse to get together with friends and family. And I really think there is a board game for everybody. Even if you don't think, especially if the only board games you know are Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit and stuff like that, there are so many, as you were saying, all those different genres and play styles. There's quick board games, there's long board games, there's sci-fi, there's more geeky ones, there's more party casual kind of games. And it's like movies, people think of it, I think, still as a niche thing, which in some ways it is, but it's really growing to be something that's accessible to everybody, I think.
It is, and I hope people find the game that's for them on our site.
That would be great. Cha-ching! So that's what we love about them, and we still have plenty of time left, so we can get into what kind of board games I think we like, just to give people an idea of who we are and what our kind of
why don't we tell
are.
where we actually started with board games? Because
sure,
our origin story is very
sure.
important.
That's true. Obviously when we were kids, I know I played all the Clue and Mousetrap.
Well, I think for me, I relate this to how I watched anime. Like, we always watch Saturday morning cartoons and stuff, but I never said, oh, that's anime. It wasn't until I watched Toonami had a Robot Week, and they mentioned anime, and I saw Evangelion, which got me interested in actually research, and that's when I officially said, I'm watching anime. With board games, it was like, I played Monopoly, I played Risk, I played Clue, but it wasn't until Munchkin, and about, I think, late high school or early college years, is when I was like, this is a board game.
Right.
And tabletop game. And then soon after Catan came up, and then, the ball just started rolling, and next thing I know, I'm running a game site.
I know for me it's the same thing. Actually, I really think it was the old podcast, The Totally Rad Show, which used to be on Revision 3, that I loved and watched all the time, where they first recommended the game Munchkin. And that's where I first heard of it and picked it up. And I just remember when I first played it with my friends from my town, I'd never had an experience that fun before of interacting and I know a lot of people malign Munchkin a bit for its randomness, but for an introductory game, it's just so much fun. And from there, like you said, Catan came next. Actually, for me, I kind of jumped. Like I did Munchkin and Catan, but I'm pretty sure my next game after that was Battlestar Galactica. So I really jumped right into the deep end.
I realized technically I did play Magic first.
Oh, that's true. I played Pokemon.
Once again, I was so young when I started Magic, I didn't know, and then I stopped. I didn't actually start Magic again until college, which I haven't stopped then, which means I don't have much money.
That is the one through line that's been around since the early 90s Magic or earlier than that?
Magic started in the 90s, yes.
Yeah. So and that that is in the same genre, the same category of games.
We'll talk later about that. But.
Sure, I'm sure we'll have an episode or two for Magic.
But
once that, I do think you don't have to start off, with your basic games.
Oh no, it's just we can
depends on your. Yeah. It was really by chance, both. It was chance and choice. It was choice, which is how you guys should get into board games.
Copyrighted.
By choice. We don't, unfortunately, there's not a whole ton of, we didn't have a lot of news this week because we're just getting started. We're hard at work getting the site up and running for everybody. Hopefully you're watching this. Hopefully it's working.
How about we talk about our now favorite top 5 games?
Perfect. Yeah, good idea. So, and sort of more of our general preferences in terms of games.
You want to start? Let's go like...
Oh, one back and forth?
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't plan this at all. All right, well, number one for me, definitely, already name dropped it, is Battlestar Galactica. For me, the whole, for anyone who doesn't know, based on the sci-fi series, it's a cooperative game, which means You're all on the same team. And one person, however, or two, depends on how many people are playing, is a hidden traitor who's actually against the rest of the team. And for me, the hidden traitor mechanic is probably easily my favorite thing in all games.
It's definitely, most of the games that have a hidden mechanic usually are pretty fun.
It's such a fun translation of that tension. But basically, Battlestar basically sums up, I think, my game preferences. For me, it's all about the atmosphere and the experience of it. And no game, in my opinion, gives you the same feeling of like it really feels like you're on a spaceship and the human race is about to die than the Battlestar Galactica does for me.
Though we don't get to play a lot, I have to say my number one is probably Arkham Horror. For me, I really love the whole Lovecraftian mythos. And it really gets you into the idea that, oh god, we're going to die and we're fighting this huge-ass monster.
Give the gist of the game?
The game itself it's actually cooperative. I happen to also enjoy cooperative as well as competitive, but in this one you actually fight against the Elder God that's slowly waking up. So you gotta run around the town, hopefully see all the portals, and hopefully stop him from awakening. If he does awaken, you gotta fight him, which in most cases is gonna be an extremely difficult battle. And for me, I just find it's just fun to be working together in this sort of, it's much more of a theme, like you're in the world of Arkham. You actually feel, it's not like rarely, I mean, there are situations, but that rarely you're gonna be like, oh, I need more weapons. It's not gonna be like you're Rambo and like running through the entire town, killing everything without a problem.
Oh yeah, if you like, it's basically survival horror from video games as a game, definitely. That's definitely a big fun. We both started off with pretty heavy games.
Yeah, we like jumping in the deep end.
Why don't we do what are lighter games that we like too? So I'll say my other one to carry over again, a hidden traitor mechanic is the Resistance.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's one I definitely recommend. Or the Resistance Avalon. They're very similar, but Avalon adds a few more things. That's a great one for, especially if you have a lot of people, so anywhere from 5 to 10 can play it. And it can be quick games. It's sort of like the Battlestar Galactica condensed to its essence, you know what I mean? Without all the trappings of outer space.
Also more people.
Right, it's definitely, you can fit more people, it doesn't take as long, very simple, just cards, and a lot of fun psyching each other out. It's the whole game is about some people are spies secretly and the rest of the team's trying to figure it out and stop them from sabotaging the missions. So that's definitely one of my favorite, if I like a lighter game.
Let's not forget Avalon, which is like a reskin.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. No, for me, I prefer Avalon, definitely.
Well, for now, but with Coup.
Right, well that's a different game.
Oh, I thought that was an expansion.
Coup is different. Resistance they do have another expansion. You're just getting the names mixed up.
I think one for me is Suburbia. Now, that does not sound like an interesting game.
This is your lighter game, Suburbia?
I think so. It's not too hard. You just need to, play a little tiles.
True, yeah.
But pretty much all you're doing is you're building a little city. With friends, and all you have to do is like, depending on where you put tiles, you get more money or more population. So it's sort of like playing The Sims, really. But, it's tile-based and then...
SimCity.
SimCity. Right, my mistake.
Sim Animals, maybe?
So I just like the idea of being able to build your own version, your own little world, in essence. And you can also make silly things, like if you have more airports, you get points, but you may have all the airports, so it seems like everyone's flying from your town to your town. But that's you want to do a couple more? We said top 5, but well, I know one game that's on both of our lists.
I know.
Legendary.
Right, so Legendary, a Marvel deck building game.
Well, I think we should just say Legendary for now, because there could be more.
That's true. Well,
currently, it's just
at this
Marvel.
point in time, it's the Marvel version of Legendary. So we're both big comic fans. Marvel,
he actually dragged me into it.
Spider-Man, especially, is my favorite. I don't know if that's probably true for you too. I don't know.
It's like one of those things that probably depends on the day.
But the point is, that's a deck building game where, if anyone doesn't know, you have cards that you can purchase each turn and you actually construct your own customized deck for play. And that's been one of our favorites. That's another, I think, light enough that people can pick it up, but complex enough, especially with the expansions that you can add into. And the Marvel theme really
lends itself to it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think they do a great job usually with making it feel like, oh yeah, this card is Nightcrawler because he lets you teleport in some way, or this feels like I'm playing as Daredevil because I have to like close my eyes and figure out what's going on underneath my deck and stuff like that. That's definitely one for both of us.
And it should be noted that they have said they're going to get other copyrights.
Correct.
And like they've already announced Alien, but we'll see what else they have. Fingers crossed, Transformers.
Fingers crossed. Those are definitely a few of our favorites.
Yeah.
I get essentially, I don't know about you, but for me, theme is usually a huge deal. I think next week I want to dive into the issue of theme and mechanics.
Yes.
But briefly, that's generally more what I go for, is the games that give me the most fun experience is what I enjoy. That's probably pretty, it probably sounds like some really obvious thing to say. No, I like the ones that aren't fun at all.
Well, no, I mean, when we talk about that later, we'll talk about how games made in Europe and America also differ with
Correct.
that.
We will talk about that next week.
It really, for me, it's sometimes I feel like I'm always polar. Like I'm either like I want a huge mechanic based or I want to go all in on theme. Hence Arkham Horror. I think a fun balance between the two is always a good thing. Some games are able to pull it off amazingly.
Yeah, usually the best games are the ones that have both the perfect way. Depends on what kind of gamer you are. But if any of those sounded good to you, I definitely recommend checking them out because we probably have them on our store. And I promise we won't be plugging ourselves more than 4 times an episode. But really, check it out. Even if it's something you don't think you're interested in, find a friend who knows about board games or has some board games, or maybe even you can go online these days, and I know there's a few websites I don't know offhand where you can actually organize gaming groups in your community if you live somewhere new or and you don't know a lot of people around. It's very easy these days to start getting into board games, and obviously we both recommend it, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. Any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think the big thing is we hope you continue watching. We hope you pick up your own board games and play them. And we hope you have a great time just like we do when we play games.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better for myself. So we are going to be continuing to produce podcasts like this where we will talk more about news, and they'll continue to change as we go. But we'll be posting this every week, as well as our playback episodes, which are more in-depth discussions of a specific game, as we said earlier.
And you can find those playback videos on the page for that product on our own site.
That's true as well. But so you can find that all on our site. There's the podcast page. You can also read all the news. It's on there. If you have any comments or questions, or you want to tell us, hey, you're doing a terrible job, or hey, you should be selling this game, or I don't know what this is, I was looking for funny cat videos, you can leave us a comment on YouTube right down below, or you can send us an email to our address, which is rollforcrit@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter address is rollforcrit. Mine is @Quence, Quence. Yours is?
I'm at Dorukiryu. That's DORUKIRYU. Look at the bottom of the screen. It'll be there.
So look at the bottom of the screen. And before we go, we should just say, a brief thank you to everybody who was involved in helping us get this site and this show started.
Let's also thank everyone who actually stayed this long to this point in the video.
Yes, that's amazing of you. But Ivan behind the camera again. Also, John Fiorilla, who did our opening theme music. If you liked what you heard, we'll have a link to his SoundCloud in the credits. You can check out his stuff. Very cool stuff there. Everybody who helped us get this off the ground.
Well, and all the friends who are going to be playing with us soon in the future in our future videos.
Absolutely. Our moms and dads, our future children. Hello.
I was just thinking, our friends, but if you want to force your children...
I'm friends with my mom and dad and future children. They're pretty cool, I think. And also you can follow Ivan behind the camera. His Twitter is @IvanRHahn. I did get that right.
At the bottom.
Absolutely. And all of us will be posting stuff about, I'm sure, board games and board game news all the time. Also, it would be really helpful if you could like our page on Facebook.
In this video.
Right? Like our YouTube video, subscribe to our YouTube video, like us at facebook.com/rollforcrit. Our YouTube is /rollforcritcast. And If we're on iTunes, we may not be yet. We'll probably have an audio version as well you can listen to. If you could subscribe to us there or leave a review, that would be awesome. Tell your friends, let us know any suggestions you have, because we're feeling things out. We want to feel things out with you, but not in a creepy way, in a normal way.
Also, if there's any topics people really want to get to, because
give us your ideas, absolutely. And I think that's it. I think we're good.
So I'm Will,
and I'm Jonathan,
and this is Roll for Crit Cast.